Hey! It's a Wednesday, and I'm excited that you're with us for Winning Begins at Home. I'm Randy. Glad you're on the show with us today. We're gonna talk more about these heart habits we've been looking at this week. We said on Monday that our leadership and our leadership, not just at work, but our leadership at home, is a lot like an iceberg. That's our picture. We think there's 10% that's above the waterline, and at work, that's, can you lead meetings and build teams and solve problems and cast vision, all those skills that we think about. At home, though, there's some things that we kind of have on the skill side, right? Communication and building cohesiveness, and you're able to put a plan together for your family and manage your finances and all that, kind of get people from place to place, and there is some skill to having a healthy and happy home. But I think the more important part of being a family member are these hard habits. And we said yesterday, we quoted the old proverb that says, above all else, guard your heart. That's where your life comes from. And I think our heart really is where it starts. And so the first day we talked about the importance of hungering for wisdom. That was our H. To hunger for wisdom is about being teachable. It's about learning every day, being a lifelong learner. And I just can't encourage you enough, if you're a young mom or dad, to both really, to get on a path where you're learning how to parent, you're learning about your marriage, you're learning about your kids, you're doing everything you can to be teachable yourself, and you're learning your skills are getting better for your work. All that stuff. There's nothing like being on a path of growth. And then yesterday we talked about positivity. The idea of to expect the best. That was the E. Well, today let's move over to the A, HEA today, to accept responsibility. And this one is huge when we get in our home life. It is amazing how many times something goes wrong at home. It is so easy to look at somebody else and think it's their fault. And I'm just the most guilty in the world here of wanting to make sure that somebody else knows that I didn't do this. I didn't do this intentionally. This was not, I'm not trying to upset anybody here. I'm not trying to, somebody else mess this up. And when truthfully, I'm the one who messes most of the stuff up. I just really am. And I got some people who can tell you that I'm a mess. And so, when you think about your family life right now, how quick are you to cast blame on somebody else if they mess up? It's incredible to me how many people have expectations for the people around them that are so unrealistic, and they let themselves off the hook with behavior that a lot of times is much worse than what they're expecting, or that somebody else is falling short of. It's just crazy when we think about it. And you know what that does when we have these lofty expectations and we don't accept responsibility for our actions, and we're always shaming and blaming the people around us. Shame will never do anything but cause separation and death. It really does. It just, when I say death, it's not going to, physically kill somebody, but it emotionally kills every single time when we shame someone. How many of you, when anybody's ever shamed you, it's motivated you to want to change? Now you may have changed your behavior, but I'm telling you, it never helped the relationship. It really didn't. And even your behavior change probably wasn't enough for that person. How many of us, you look back and you go, I never could measure up to this, or I never could measure up to that. And there's so many people now that are carrying scars from, moms and dads or whoever put these expectations on you never could live up to. And now we're just in this vicious cycle, and we end up turning around and doing it to our kids or our grandkids or whoever. It never helps the relationship when we don't accept responsibility for our actions, and then we blame somebody else for theirs. Now, as a parent or as a spouse, even, we do have an opportunity to take responsibility for our actions, and especially as a parent, one of our responsibilities is to train our kids. And I think sometimes we're upset with our kids because they're acting like children. When they are children, they're supposed to be childish, right? When they're children. And yet we get so frustrated with them. And the truth is, we've enabled that behavior that is frustrating us so much because we've not done the training. We've not taken the time. We just think we'll yell at them, or we'll shame them, or we'll put them in their place. Or, I mean, it's like, it's just not, it's not rational sometimes that we think that we're going to fix them when we've not taken time to train them. We've not taken time to have conversations with them and make sure that they understand this is and sometimes we're asking them to do things that they're not even capable of doing yet. They're just not mature enough to understand the consequences. Or it's like, what are we doing? I mean, we can really mess things up, and it causes an emotional barrier long term if we're not careful. And so I want to remind you today that one of your responsibilities, if you're going to accept responsibility for the emotional well-being of your family. Now, every person will have to get to a point where they can handle their own emotions, but I think we want to create an environment where everybody can thrive. That's one of the things I always try to think about is I want to create, back to what we talked about yesterday, I want to create a positive environment for the people in my home. And I want our home to be a place where people want to be. They feel like this is a place where they can thrive and be encouraged and know that at least somebody's got their back. I'll take responsibility for being the positive person in their life, because the truth is most of the world is not going to be positive toward the people in your family. It's going to be negative. It's going to chip away at their confidence and their courage and all that stuff. We have an opportunity here to really build up the people that we live with. It's such a blessing, such a gift to be able to do that. Our positivity, like we said yesterday, is one of the ways that we can do that, as we accept responsibility for that environment. But creating a place where everybody's teachable and everybody's learning together. And when we expect our kids to be, we're training them, we expect them to be learning, we need to own it. And part of accepting responsibility is, hey, I messed up, or I'm trying to learn this, or I'm trying to get better as well. We get to model the way when we do that. And I think these character traits just, again, they make us so fun to be in a family with. When we've got a wise mom or dad, we've got positive parents, we've got a responsible, we're taking responsibility for creating the right environment. I think that's so amazing when we do that. So today I would encourage you to pick a spot in your family life and ask yourself, where have I not been taking responsibility? Answer that question. Where have I just been, I've been blaming everybody else. I'm not. And by the way, one of the parts of accepting responsibility is when things go right, when people are doing stuff right, I think we have a responsibility to point that out and to give praise in those places and remind them that's awesome. There's an old, what gets rewarded gets repeated. And I think sometimes one of the things we have responsibility for is celebrating the right behavior. If we were just as passionate about celebrating the right behavior as we were, about being punitive when things don't go right, maybe things would be right a lot more, especially if we'd trained the way we need to, rather than enabling this negative behavior. And by the way, it's not the kids who are the only ones who are, being immature. I think so many times as adults, we're immature as well, and we don't take responsibility for that. So accept responsibility. It is one of the heart habits of really high character leaders. Some of the best leaders I've ever known, they're always responsible for their actions. When things go right, they're always sharing credit with everybody else. When things don't go right, they're first in line to say, hey, I messed up and I need you to forgive me on that one. I'm gonna get better here, and pray for me and encourage me, and I'm gonna try to do the same thing for you. I love that. So we'll leave it there today. I just encourage you to accept responsibility. Tomorrow we got one more that I'll give you before we get to Fridays. Like what I said a couple of days ago, it's 1A. It's first among equals. If you ask me, it may be the most important thing we can do in our family life if we're going to really have these heart habits in check. So hope you'll come back for that tomorrow and Friday. We'll continue this conversation. Thanks for sharing with the people that you care about. Thanks for helping us grow the channel here. Thanks for all your encouragement toward me. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. More winning begins at home.